Hey guys, today we're going through chapter 6 on periodic functions. We're in section 1, going over graphs of the sine and cosine functions. And we're working through number 7. So number 7 says, graph two full periods of the function. State the amplitude, period, and midline. State the max and minimum y values and their corresponding x values on one period for x is greater than 0. And our function is f of x equals 2/3 cosine x. So before we graph, I'm going to write down the few things that it asks for. So it asks for the amplitude, the period, and the midline. So we know from our general form that we're given, this is our general form of the trig function sine and cosine. We have f of x equals a sine of bx minus c plus d. So in this equation, we have 2/3 cosine x. So if we write out, we have our a equals 2/3. Our b is an imaginary 1 here. Our c, we don't have anything subtracted from our x or added to it, so our c equals 0, and there's no extra d out here, so d equals 0. So we don't have to worry about those, or even our b really. Well, we know from a, this is our amplitude right here. Our amplitude equals the absolute value. Our amplitude equals the absolute value of a equals 2/3. And our period is going to be 2 pi. Our period we signify by t equals 2 pi over b. And in this example, b is 1, so our period is 2 pi. Okay, so we've got our period, our amplitude. Now we need our midline. Our midline is going to be our d. So since our d equals 0, our midline will be at y equals 0. And that's where we're going to be going across the axis. We want this middle line of it. So that's what our d tells us. So our d tells us that that line is going to be at y equals 0. So now we've got our information, we can go ahead and draw our function. So we go ahead and we draw here. This is our 0 here, 0 here on our x and y axes. And we've got cosine. So our amplitude is 2/3. So that means that we're going to go up 2/3 and down 2/3. So minus 2/3 plus 2/3. And we know that we start from, since it's cosine, it starts from the top. It starts at the very top of its amplitude. And we're going to draw out to our period is 2 pi. And between here is going to be 1 full period. So we know that it's going to end where it starts. So we know that at 2 pi, we're going to be back up at 2/3. And then we need to find the middle of our we need to find our midpoint where we're going to have our bottom of our cosine function. So our midpoint is going to be at, here's 0 and here's 2 pi. So our midpoint is going to be 2 pi minus 0 over 2 equals pi. So at pi, we're going to be at negative 2/3. And then we need to find where it crosses the x-axis. We're going to do our midpoint again. So this one's going to be pi minus 0 over 2. So this is going to be pi over 2 where it crosses the x-axis. And then over here we're going to do 2 pi minus pi over 2. Let's see. Sorry, these are pluses. So 2 pi plus pi over 2 equals 3 pi over 2. Right here. 3 pi over 2 for our midpoint. And now we just connect the dots. So we're coming down here like that. Cool, so that's one period of our cosine function, and we know that cosine is symmetric about the y-axis, so we're going to draw the same thing going on over here. So this will be our minus 2 pi. Here we'll have a minus pi, minus 3 pi over 2, minus pi over 2. And we fill in the points. It's symmetric about this x-axis, so all these points correlate. And we'll finish off our function. Cool, so now we've graphed 2 full periods of the cosine function. What else does the question ask us to do? So we're asked to state the maximum and minimum y values and their corresponding x values on one period for x is greater than 0. So we're looking at x is greater than 0, and we're looking at our maximum and our minimums. So our maxes occur at the top of our amplitude, which is 2/3. So we have our max y at 2/3, and that occurs where? At 0 and at 2 pi. At x equals 0 and 2 pi. Where's our minimum? It's where we hit the bottom of our cosine curve, which is at negative 2/3. So our minimum y is negative 2/3, which occurs at x equals pi. And we're done.
I hope you found this video really helpful. The concepts we covered in this video are true no matter what pre-calculus class you take, and the examples I cover are from this textbook right here. And remember, if you're a Baylor student currently enrolled, there is free tutoring on the first floor of Sidrich. You can create a one-on-one appointment online or drop in anytime during our business hours. Please visit our website, www.baylor.edu/tutoring, for more details. Sic 'em Bears.